And in the next move, knight to d5 is possible, so to stop this, e6 by black. Okay, so now queen to a5, and that's a slight inaccuracy because this queen on a5 is not doing anything special. Instead, queen to c7 might be the better option so that he can keep an eye on this knight, because now white can continue this game by knight takes c6, b takes c6, now queen to e2, okay? And if bishop to e7, if black tries to castle, instead of castling here, white can push g4. Preparing to push g5, so to avoid this, if black decides to bring this knight to d7, now comes h4. And now you can see that white has just launched this tsunami of pawns, which can create some trouble to black in the future. But after the move queen to a5, here Fischer decides to just castle. And now it's better for black to just develop this bishop to e7 and then to go for castle. But instead, he made a mistake by pushing d5. And yes, he is preparing for bishop to c5. Yes, basically he is preparing for this pin, but as you can see, white can simply handles this by bishop to e3, which was actually played by Fischer. And now for black, it's better to go for knight to g4 so that he can target this active bishop. And some of you might be thinking about the move which is b6 with the same idea of bishop to c5, but white can simply bring this another rook into the game so that he can defend this bishop if black targets this queen. So let's suppose if he tries to capture this pawn on b6, then that will be a mistake. But why? This is because of queen takes b6, bishop takes b6, and you can see here white will lose some of his advantage. Knight takes e4, knight takes e4, d takes e4, and after that rook at f goes to d1. Preparing for rook to d8 check, but simply bishop to d7. And yes, white is still better in this game, but this is holdable for black also. But in the actual game, after the move bishop to e3, here black missed that move and he goes for knight takes e4. And why this is a mistake? This is because after knight takes e4, you can see this f file is now opened, and white can easily push this pawn in the future. But firstly, Fischer decides to capture this knight on e4 by knight takes e4. Okay, so now here Fischer goes for f5, and let's suppose if black decides to capture this pawn on f5 by e takes f5, now comes bishop to a4 check, and the only best move is the move b5, but now comes queen to e5 check. Okay, bishop to e7, and now how can you continue this game? Here some of you might be thinking about capturing this pawn on g7, which looks good for the first time, but guys, this move is actually a mistake. Basically, as you can see, since this rook is attacked, so that's why rook to f8. And now since this bishop is attacked, so white has to defend this. Let's suppose if he goes back to b3, and after that queen to c7. So as you can see here, black is now guarding this 7th rank, and now you can see there is no more major threats to the black position because this f5 pawn is already defended by this light square bishop. Okay, so now let me go back to the move, which is bishop to e7. Yeah, so that's why here the best move for white is not to capture this pawn, it is to go for bishop to b3. And obviously black cannot now castle due to this undefended bishop. So let's suppose if he goes for rook to g8 so that he can target this pawn. And guys, now you might be shocked that in this position white can actually sacrifice his rook by rook takes f5. But basically here white sacrificed this because let's suppose if bishop takes f5, queen takes f5, targeting this f7 pawn. And what about rook to f8? Because now this is defended, but now comes bishop to d5. And now here to save this game, it's better for black to go for queen to c7. But let's suppose if black is not careful and he decides to defend his rook by rook to d8, that will be a huge blunder. Yes, you are right. The move is bishop to c6 check. And the only move is rook to d7, and finally queen takes d7 checkmate. Okay, so in the actual game, after the move f5, after this move, here black goes for queen to b4, which is again a mistake because now Fischer immediately captures on e6. Okay guys, now take it as a puzzle. In this position, what will you play as of white? Just pause the video and try to find it by yourself. Okay, so if you find the move rook takes f8, then congratulations, you are a genius just like Bobby Fischer. Because this queen is now undefended, as you can see. Basically we captured this so that we can remove the defense of this queen. So that's why now black is forced to capture it back with the queen. And now in this position, the final move by Fischer is queen to a4 check. And in this position, Peter Dely resigned. This is because let's suppose if this game continues like b5, simply queen takes e4, and now this is attacked, so rook to d8, but simply queen to c6 check. Okay, rook to d7, and after that queen to a8 check. And obviously this king can't go there due to this, and this also can't go there due to this. Yes, so let's suppose if he goes back to defend this, now queen to c6 check, rook to d7, and yes, you are right, rook to d1, creating more pressure. And let's suppose if he guards this by queen to e7, but simply bishop to b6 so that he can give a check. And you can see this and this. And now to survive for some time, black has to castle, but after that you can see white will capture this rook. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.